So, welcome to another episode of Price Targets with your host Bitcoin Jack. Welcome back, guys. I'm gonna try and make this a quickie. We're interesting zone. I'm gonna start with Bitcoin just to kind of get you into what I'm seeing here. In my opinion, this is an ABC correction, fairly normal. And now the question is where this B is gonna come. And look, the reason why I think this is an ABC, this very much looks like a pennant. Let me go to the 6 hour. We have one move, another move, another move, another move, and then another move. So that's 5 as a B wave. Normally, you get the C wave, and if we jump through even smaller time frames, we can look at this first impulse down here, which is clearly looking like a 5 wave. So A is impulsive, pretty aggressive. Then here we need to see a 5 wave as well. So, I mean, it's there, I think. So, but this is like a very small consolidation, large 3 wave pullback, and then a 5th wave. It's entirely possible that this is getting an extension. And in that scenario, we visit this area, but we've basically visited already. But this area here is the midweek gap that was left behind by the CME. So I don't know if we need to actually really go down here. It's possible. Anyways, larger picture, if you look at the bottom of this gap, which sits around 112-ish or so, it's entirely possible that we go there, but it's generally unlike Bitcoin to retrace to previous highs. So essentially, I think it's very unlikely that we retest 112. And it's very likely that this was it. We swept the low here. Now we need to get to lower time frames. And we swept the low here. Both lows swept. We really didn't touch this thing, but we kind of filled this extension. I don't necessarily think that we need to go lower. Sorry for the noise in the background. It's possible, but essentially what I'm thinking here is you have to be a bidder, and this entire area is going to set us up for the next extension leg higher. If you don't really like catching knives, which would have been here, I would be a bidder again below the sweep here. And then you could essentially also try and play the breakout. So we draw it like this, A, B, C. Generally, it's not going to get any other. I mean, it's possible, but I don't think it's going to happen. What I do think is eventually you come to attack this thing and you break out of it, which is going to set us up for 144. That's what I'm thinking. So ETH, I mean, it's recovering very nicely here. The thing is, the way I've been looking at the market is that alts are leading, and alts sold off, and then Bitcoin sold off, right? And ETH is ready for another breakout. I mean, it might consolidate a little longer, but yeah, thank you. Just give me back my connection. So I think there is at least a leg up, one more leg up, maybe two more legs. As we get into 360, it's going to start struggling. And then I think distribution is going to start, so we go up, pull back, and then we kind of round top around the 1.618, which may go a bit higher to like 420, right? So if we put in 420, just for the memes, we have a bunch of highs here to be swept. I think that's our final target, but it's probably going to start moving slower than what we've seen here. So essentially, we're going to get like a 3 drives pattern or something, indicating that the strength is kind of gone. It would be amazing if we can do this like within the next 2 to 3 weeks. That's very bullish. So if we measure what we have left here, let's say we go that way, that's another 30%. And then if Bitcoin is going to start breaking out towards, let's say, this extension here, it's also almost 30%. That gives you your target for ETH/USD, right? So 1.3 times 1.3 gives us 70%. So take ETH, 3,700 times 1.7. That puts us towards 6,200. Well, obviously, this is not going to move in like tandem. There's going to be a point in time where ETH BTC kind of starts flying, and maybe Bitcoin already hit like the 144 or 150 level. And then ETH is going to fly. So my thinking here is that we're going to go higher than this. And we need to rate these highs. And then I think that we could go, potentially to 5,500. That would be insane. I think anyone who's looking at these resistances is just forgetting about never trust the fourth. And like everyone thinks no one still is holding any supply from these highs. Like if there's still anyone holding supply from that high, they're not gonna sell. Like honestly, they're just bag holders, and nobody's gonna sell that. So that brings us to smashing all-time highs above 4,800. And that might actually become an SFP, right? So let's take the 6,200 that we calculated as well, just to put it in there, and draw a squiggly. So if I'm right, I can gloat about it. Something like that. That's my thinking for ETH. Link, still very bullish Link. Within that time frame, we have a few more weeks left. 28 is a Fibonacci extension that I think we're easily going to hit, especially if ETH, can do the 70% thing. Because it makes a lot of sense that as we go into that acceleration and kind of final extension before we get into like some August, September trouble, that ETH beta is going to outperform. So if ETH is going to get another 70%, that puts us at least at the 1.618, but I think we can double towards 40 or 38. And that would complete are, you know, this nice parabola. Like, obviously, in hindsight, we'll have to redraw it, how it works, but that will be nice. So for link, we actually, and this is actually quite bullish. My thinking was that we were going to raid these two highs and then smash back down. I shared that on Twitter, and we didn't. So we didn't even sweep the liquidity here, and then we had to pull back into this massive green level, which is important. So I think this is going to consolidate and then break out. And if we're very lucky, let's go to a bit of a bigger time frame. It's going to complete this range. So essentially, this range is so defined. It's actually beautiful. You have the high here, you have the low here, and then you have the low here, you have the reaction here, and then you have the rejection there. So this range seems like a fair game, and it's aligning with the longer term trend lines here. So we either have yeah, I'm in a car park. That's so funny. And this is like people going to the beach and shit. I went to the beach. That was nice. So we have these two trend lines here that I think will come into play, and they're aligned with the green level here as well. So that's kind of what I'm thinking here for Link. So a bit of Link app performance, $40 possible, maybe more, maybe less, but that's where I think it could be heading. Might actually, tap, because if you want to have an entry, that's, if this has a chance to just be it, right? But if you want to be a bidder, be a bidder around 17 to 17 and a half, maybe just below 17 for the next leg up. Kind of a bit, yeah. This was I thought it was ready to go, and then it just collapsed on us. Not really sure how to interpret that. It's a consolidation and a continuation pattern, in my opinion. But do we rate the low here and test this level? Maybe, or maybe that was it. But generally, still very bullish because it's ETH beta and it should outperform. So if my thesis on ETH and Bitcoin is correct, this is gonna start flying. And then, I mean, this is finding support here into this block. So this should easily be able to go to 400, and then let's take a little bit of a higher time frame. If it's really bullish and ETH is going to do what I think ETH is going to do, then obviously this is going to double as well. If Link is going to double, this is going to double. So maybe overly bullish, but I think we're in crazy land. Everything is consolidating. We had a pullback, but if you look at these charts, they've been just, they've been soaring, and this was a huge retest. So I would be very much, surprised if the liquidity around 440 and all-time highs wasn't rated. If ETH is gonna make all-time highs, why not Aave? Hype. It's so it hit one of our levels at 47 and since been just consolidating. It pretty much needs to hold, in my opinion, the level it's at right now. Like maybe the blue level down here, which is, in my opinion, going to set up for the trend line and the blue line here. So 55 to maybe 58, 60 is on the line, in my opinion. So let's put it there. fun to play. Like if you can get size, you could try and break, like, simple things work now, right? So just draw this. If it gets above it, it clears the horizontal resistance. So you have the diagonal, and then it clears, bam. So that's where you could get on board. But in my opinion, I'd be bidding 40 to, well, whatever price it's at right now, 43. US still such a fucking weird chart. Anyways, so this is like the big kind of like pullback on ETH. We had some people rotating into Solana. Obviously, it makes a lot of sense. This is not it. I've outlined this level here, and I think that outperformance is gonna keep on going for a little bit, and then we start to see rotations as we go into the resistances and the targets that I mentioned. So there's obviously, underwhelming performance on some of the other assets compared to ETH, and I think that rotation is gonna come inside. Like we're gonna see that rotation slowly starting to happen, but not for now. I think we're breaking out here and then go a bit higher, at least inside of this zone, before we see the rotation really take hold, right? And then the ES, I mean, the reverse repo collapsed another 30% today. I think it's only left at 130 billion. Like, everyone's getting off the sidelines and everyone's putting on the leverage. That's going to have some extension. There's a bunch of people who are kind of being short, and they're just getting ripped out of the market. So 6,900 is really the level where I'm going to start to pay attention and kind of, get a cautious bias into, well, markets in general. So there's quite a bit of room left for all markets before we get our August/September event, which we need to see what's going to happen exactly. But there's all kinds of things that we can look at that are telling us, like, well, there's potential trouble in the market. Currently, the BOJ is kind of capping the rates, the 10-year rates at 1.6, and that's kind of tied into the yen carry trade. If that unwinds and this goes to 2%, which is probably the next level they're gonna, defend, it's gonna cause some trouble. I think, essentially it's probably a bullish thing, but probably not straight away. It's the fiat system breaking, and then some liquidity shenanigans. People, gotta get out of positions to cover positions and make sure their asses are covered. But Bitcoin has been designed for this, and the only solution to solve this problem that Japan has is more liquidity from the Fed, or a total collapse, which is gonna obviously destroy trust in fiat systems and put Bitcoin more on the map. So either way, it will be bullish. I don't think it's going to happen straight away, but we're probably getting into the zone in a time frame soonish where this might be a stress factor. And then the other thing that's a stress factor is this just keeps on hugging the support here. And I mean, how many times can you touch it? Unless the Federal Reserve starts cutting, which, if they do, I don't think that's necessarily bullish. Because they kind of, admit there is a problem. And I don't know. So if this starts to break down, it's gonna, the principal value, the value of the bond is gonna come back to principal. Essentially, you would have invested in like 10, 20, 30-year bonds, and you put 100K in and back then, and then you would get 100K back right now, but that 100K is worth, 50, 60, 70% less than what it was worth then in terms of buying power. So This also could indicate stress on the horizon. If this dumps down here, the long-term rates are gonna skyrocket. That's gonna implode like a bunch of markets, like housing and other stuff. So um, that will definitely get the Fed off the sidelines and inject liquidity. So again, maybe a short-term problem, but definitely something that's going to get papered over in the longer term, pretty probably short term. So I would assume that anything that happens in terms of market shenanigans in August or September is going to be short-lived and is going to create a liquidity boom that's essentially going to get captured by asset markets like Bitcoin and the stock market, and anything that can absorb liquidity that is interesting. So, yeah, that's, I don't know. I'm not too worried about it, except that the pullback's going to be very sharp. Like last week, we spoke about that. I do believe that the next Bitcoin correction is going to be a very volatile one, not a sideways one. And that kind of ties into the whole story here. So, maybe I'm making up fairy tales, entirely possible, but I've been in this game for a while and the story fits, but we need to see the evidence and then, find clues and find more evidence and sharpen the theory, sharpen the hypothesis, and look into whether we find more answers to corroborate the whole fairy tale. And so for now, I think things are looking bullish. Then we have our big friend Link ETH. I think it's gonna, consolidate a little bit and then start the outperformance thing that I kind of show you. And the question is, how much is it gonna be? Is it gonna be 80%? Because then, that's 1.7 times 1.7 is times 2.9. So let's say Link is at $18. That puts it at $52. So, but again, those things are not going to move in tandem. It's, one maximum is not going to match the other maximum. So Link's outperformance might happen as ETH is coming back a little bit, right? Which is gonna be the reason why it might not go to 52, but it's gonna get stuck at like 38 or 40. Damn. That's 23 minutes. That's kind of like my usual. I'm gonna jump quickly into gold. Gold's not finished yet, in my opinion. It's kind of selling off again, but I think it has this one last leg up. So let's go to a smaller time frame. Basically, what we said is that we want to see consolidation and a break above the 34.40 level, which hasn't happened yet. But we have 1 test, 2 tests, 3 tests. So the next one is definitely gonna be influential. I'm gonna kind of ditch that ID if we break down from this. And I'm gonna ditch that ID if we break down from this and then reclaim it, right? So kind of a funky one here. If this is gonna lose it, then this kind of pattern is gonna unfold. So the 2800 level is actually gonna come inside. And that's probably not gonna be so great for Bitcoin either. So I honestly think this must break out higher to like 3800. I think that was it, man. I would suggest that you take care. Obviously, my IDs could be completely wrong. I would say that you should definitely come check out Backpack. We're farming a ton of points, and I mean, I did the math. I think it's gonna, if you scored well with points, I think there's at least like a 6-figure airdrop waiting for participants in season 1 and season 2. So I'd probably, at least check it out. Use my ref link in the in the description below. If you're gonna actually become serious about trading, get a MATLAB NFT, which is gonna bump you to VIP tier trading fees. And if you use my ref link, that's gonna give you another 20% discount on top of that VIP 1 tier trading fee. So come check it out. I think you're really gonna love the exchange. It's it's a great experience. I've been with Bybit, I've been with Binance. Obviously, I can't use Binance anymore, but it's on par or better than those exchanges. So I'm not, shilling Backpack for no reason. It's actually a really great product. And I think that things will explode once they're officially open for the EU. So if you can get ahead of the curve there, that would be amazing. Anyways, talk to you later and take care. Bye.